Well, we have landed at the river and we are still in Wyoming, but it is getting hot, 100
and
degrees.
Buggy.
Oh, and buggy. 100 degrees day after day. Before we all travel down to the North Platte River and find us a great campsite, we have an announcement. But before we jump into exploring our time on the river and how the air conditioner has been working for us in this heat, we want to say thank you. Thank you for joining our journey with Maximus. We started the YouTube channel with our build videos, and now we are traveling, and we are very thankful that you guys have joined us. We have now reached our first big milestone of our first 1,000 subscribers. We're celebrating.
Wow.
We met our first milestone. We have 1,000 YouTube subscribers.
Okay. Well, at least we still not celebrating. We haven't broken down.
No, we're not doing that.
You know, our journey really began about 7 or 8 years ago, right about the time that Cheryl and I started dating. As it turned out, I had already had an intention to build a 6x6 expedition vehicle, and right about the time we started seeing each other, I bought a military 6x6. Since then, sold that 6x6, so I went from an M923H to a 2004 Stewart & Stevenson M1088A1, which is now parked behind my shop. You know, as the warm-up for the 6x6, we decided to buy a truck camper. We first needed to know if we both enjoyed the prospect of living in a close quarters. We actually got married before we bought the Lance camper, and we traveled for a year and a half in the Lance camper, and when it came time to say, okay, we've done enough experimenting with the Lance camper, we know that we can live in a small space without killing each other. I decided that the military 6x6, which has a maximum on-road speed of about 58 miles per hour, although it's a beautiful vehicle, little loud, low gas mileage, I decided to build Maximus instead. I said, if we can survive the truck camper, we can do a little better with a flatbed chassis mounted camper, and that's where the saga of Maximus started, and that's where the YouTube started, is that, you know,
some of my favorite comments from our YouTubers in the past few months are Terry X2 Explorer says, beautiful camping spot, looks like some amazing exploring, thanks for sharing. And JG says, impressive planning and design, definitely a thumbs up. And KX Racer 704. This was on our recently getting stuck in the Grand Tetons video. Says, I love that you guys actually test the limits with the truck and camper. If you always stayed on pavement, then why even build the type of camper you did? I love it, off-roading and getting to those not too traveled campsites with such a nice camper. On our mini split videos from Jason W. Another incredible video, Steve. I've been debating between roof mount or mini split, and this seals it for me. Thank you. And lastly, Jim Powell, I hope you keep making these videos. It's one of the best resources on the internet. So thank you so much for your kind words. Sometimes we have comments or feedback and criticisms. We take those to heart as well. And we just love hearing from everybody.
we are closing up the camper at about noon every day so we can enjoy some air conditioning, because we are able to run our high efficiency mini split on our solar panels, and we can get about 8 hours of air conditioning a day. So we run from about noon till about 8 p.m. and do that every day as we're on the river. We have been camping along the Platte River, and before that we've been camping in the Wyoming mountains to escape the heat. But we haven't completely escaped the heat. We have actually been using our air conditioner quite a bit. And what we have been doing is we go play in the morning, but by noon, 1 o'clock, it's hot enough outside where we don't feel like it's fun to be outside, and so we close the camper up and turn the air conditioning on. And we run the air conditioner about 8 hours, 12:30, 1 o'clock to about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we do this every day. And I'd like to explain to you how we do it. The way that I want to portray this is, when I was building Maximus, I made some very deliberate decisions on sizing of the insulation, the air conditioner, the solar, the battery. But I needed to do a power balance in order to say, okay, if I'm going to want to run this much equipment during the day, I've got to be able to generate this much power. It's a very particular equation because if you use a lot of power, you've got to generate a lot of power, but I don't have a lot of roof. The energy balance that I computed when I first designed the camper was slightly different from what I experienced because it's pretty hard to determine exactly how much air conditioning you're going to need for the insulation that you have and for the temperature that you have without actually experimenting. Here is the experimental results of how our system works and how we're able to run 8 hours of air conditioning per day. So what we have here is a graph showing the energy balance, and it runs from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And this is just a kind of a snapshot of what our day with air conditioning would look like. So just to orient you to the chart, on the vertical axis here we have power. And so this is the power that we are consuming or generating. And this chart shows the generating curve. This is the green parabola here that represents solar generation. And below it we have three different colors here. We have the blue, which is power being consumed. We have this green here, which is charge being generated, and we have the red over here, which have red in multiple places. The red is power being consumed that comes from the battery. So again, the blue is power consumed that comes from solar, and the green is the battery charge. On the other side here, we have some battery statistics. In addition to talking about power being consumed and charged, we want to talk about what the battery does as far as being charged or discharged. I have about 14 effective kilowatt hours of battery, and this represents my state of charge from 0 to 100% state of charge. So on a typical day, this shows from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So what's going on first thing in the morning? Okay, my battery state of charge, this is the orange line here is my battery. It says I'm running about 70% state of charge, or 65%. And this is largely from the battery debt the night before, which is when we've been running air conditioning. 6 a.m. the sun is just starting to come up, starting to provide useful charge, but it's not even enough to carry the refrigerator. So our refrigerator consumes about 1 kilowatt hour per day, which is what this height here represents. It runs about 45 watts for 24 hours a day. And I'm representing my operating load here, which is about 1.2 kilowatt hours during the day over a 12-hour period. And so it's showing about 100 watts in vertical height. As the sun comes out and it starts to charge, we've been consuming some of this operating power from the battery, but as the charge comes up, we are now carrying all of our operating loads, and we're able to constantly operate without any battery power. And as the sun goes up, we get more and more battery charge. And so you can see the charge line here. The charge line goes up. We're going to now slide over here till about 2 p.m. And so you can see that this charging that goes on here is elevating the battery state of charge to about 90% by about noon. Almost fully recovers the battery charge from the previous day. And then we decide to turn the air conditioning on, which is this big spike right here. So when we turn the air conditioning on, the combined loads of the refrigerator, the operating loads, and now the air conditioner all represent far more than the solar charge can provide. So we're drawing some portion of it from the battery. And what happens is the air conditioner comes on, it draws about 800 watts, but that 800 watt draw is only over a period of about an hour, half an hour to an hour, while it draws the temperature of the camper from about 85 down to about 78. And then what happens is the air conditioner, because it's a variable speed air conditioner, the air conditioning drops from about 800 watts down to about 400 watts. And it just idles, because that's all, 400 watts is all it requires to keep the camper cool. And this point in time right here at about 1:30 in the afternoon is when the peak of solar charging occurs. Our 950 watts of panel produce about 800 watts of charge at peak solar charge. As the afternoon goes on, we're still drawing less than full solar charge, so we still get a little bit of solar charge. So you can see this battery state of charge goes up to here, it drops down a little bit while we cool the camper down, and it starts to charging a little bit more. And about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we've reached about peak battery charge, which is probably 90 to 95% state of charge, because at that point in time, the solar energy being brought in is exactly equal to what the air conditioner and all the other loads are consuming. So at that point in time, charging is done. As we go farther on into the afternoon or the evening, now we're in the territory where the solar charge is declining, but the peak heat of the day is probably just about 5 or 6 o'clock, so it's still yet to be reached. So we're drawing a lot more and more power from the battery, and this battery debt's being accumulated, but it's keeping us cool until about 8 o'clock. When we shut the air conditioner off, it's cool enough outside to open up the camper and let the air blow through, and that'll keep us cool. Our battery state of charge has dropped back down to about, say 80% or so, and then all night long the refrigerator is going to run, and it's going to draw the charge down from, we're about 80% here down to about 70% in the morning, if it's that. Its battery draw on the refrigerator is not 10%, but you kind of get the gist of it. The other things I want you to take away from this chart is the amount of battery power we actually need. We have about 14 kilowatt hours of total battery charge, and we get down here somewhere between 8.5 and 9 kilowatt hours are left. So we're using about 4 to 4.5 kilowatt hours of battery during the day. That's all bigger the battery would actually have to be in order to make this system work, was about 4 to 4.5 kilowatt hours, which is probably a 350 to 400 amp hour battery. Needless to say, but I have lots of battery capacity, but the thing that makes this work is this is a small air conditioner. It's 9,000 BTUs. It's a variable speed air conditioner, so it'll run anywhere from about 400 to 800 watts depending on what it needs. It never shuts off. It essentially runs almost all the time. It just changes its speed in order to accommodate the temperature. If you owned a commercial camper and you wanted to try to do this with your commercial RV air conditioner, you're going to run into a number of hurdles. Hurdle number one is you may not have enough roof to get enough solar on it. I'm running 950 watts of solar in order to do this, and it's about the minimum of what I would need in order to do what I'm doing. If you're running an inefficient RV air conditioner and you have much less insulation and probably have less solar power, you're not going to be able to make this happen. You're going to have to find a way to get more power because you have a highly inefficient air conditioner and you have poor insulation. My RV walls are R13. They're 2.5 inches thick. Your RV walls are probably about an R4 or R5, and they're probably at most about 1.5 inches thick. Your RV air conditioner is quite large and quite inefficient. If you wanted to make a change, and if you had the ability to go after some of these things, just getting more battery doesn't solve the problem, because you're consuming more energy. You have to generate more energy. And if you can't generate more energy, then you have to consume less energy. To consume less energy, you need a more efficient air conditioner and you need better insulation. If you're a van custom guy, you might have the opportunity, because you built the thing and you built the insulation into it, you might have the opportunity to add insulation to the inside of your camper. But if you're a commercial camper owner, your opportunities for improving your insulation are very little. We've been doing this for the last couple of weeks here on the Platte River. If you have questions about how you might be able to do more effective air conditioning, please put a comment to this video and I'll get back to you.
We just left Louis Lake Road. We are making our way to the North Platte River where we kayaked last year, down at an area near Miracle Mile Bridge. We are headed towards the North Platte River in Wyoming. We've explored a few areas along that whole river last year, and I'll put some links up in the video here and in our description. And for the first time in all of our travel, we hit a detour, and it's not a detour we created, a real detour. It turned out to be quite a steep drive down Fremont Canyon Road, which is south of the 220 and east of Alcova, which was our original turn, and did connect us to Cortez Road, which is the backcountry road, taking us down to Miracle Mile Bridge area where we can find a lot of dispersed camping.
Sage Creek Road Pathfinder Reservoir. I don't think that's it.
I think it's down further. We really enjoyed our stay on the North Platte River this year, and getting the kayak out was fun.
Well, that's it for this episode. We really enjoyed our time here at the North Platte River. We enjoyed our ability to avoid the insects by closing up the camper and turning on the air conditioning. And we really appreciate you coming along for the ride.
Yes, we do. And thank you so much for joining us and being part of our first big milestone.